Good morning. I'm attorney Mitchell Garabedian in Boston, Massachusetts. To my right is Michael Sweat, an advocate of sexual abuse victims and also a victim of Charles Malia, Cheverus High School in Maine. To my left is Robert Hodson, the Road to Recovery, an advocate for sexual abuse victims. I'm here to discuss the $12 million settlement, which was agreed to last Friday. Which was finalized last Friday between 24 children, sexual abuse victims of Douglas Perlitz, and Fairfield University, the Society of Jesus or the Jesuits, the Order of Malta, Hope Carter, Father Paul Carrier, a Jesuit, the Haiti Fund, and the Haiti Fund. After 3 months of, well, let me start at the beginning, I'm sorry. Back in April of 2011, I began filing lawsuits on behalf of Haitian children who were sexually molested by Douglas Perlitz at Project Pierre Toussaint in Cap-Haïtien, Haiti, and also at Douglas Perlitz's home in Bel Air, which is a town outside of Cap-Haïtien, Haiti. Douglas Perlitz at the time was running Project Pierre Toussaint, a school for street children, for homeless children. And he was being supervised by Father Paul Carrier, a Jesuit, and entities, the Society of Jesus, the Jesuits, the Order of Malta, Fairfield University, Hope Carter, were all named as defendants in addition to the Haiti Fund in the complaints. They were supervising either Father Paul Carrier or Douglas Perlitz. And Douglas Perlitz, from 1998 to 2008, was working at Project Pierre Toussaint and sexually molesting these street children. Some of them he sexually molested once, some of them he sexually molested over 100 times. These street children had no food, very little clothing, no shelter, no medicine, and many have serious illnesses. As we all know, malaria, tuberculosis, typhoid, and HIV are rampant in Haiti. Haiti is a third world country with no food, no medicine, no clothing, and lacks the basic necessities of life. Douglas Perlitz was allowed to sexually molest these innocent children because of the negligence of Father Paul Carrier, Fairfield University, the Society of Jesus or the Jesuits, the Order of Malta, Hope Carter, and the Haiti Fund. The damage to them, to these brave children, and they are courageous children, is irreparable and will live with them for the rest of their lives. To sexually molest children who have no food, clothing, or shelter, and no medicine is a horror, unspeakable, and truly cannot be described adequately in words. We had 3 months of mediation. There were approximately 25 individuals on the other side representing the defendants or the insurance companies in the mediation. We reached agreement to settle the cases for $12 million. I'm in receipt of the $12 million. Each child has agreed to distribute the money equally amongst themselves, $500,000 each, gross amount. This will change their lives. These children are suffering in the most basic way. emotionally, and as I mentioned earlier, because they don't have the basic necessities of life. They don't even have medicine, and many of them are not feeling well. This case is significant for many reasons. It shows the breadth and scope of children being sexually molested around the world. You have purportedly the most moral institutions in the world acting the most immorally by negligently supervising predators, pure predators, and that's what Douglas Perlitz is. As you know, he received a 19-month, 7-year jail sentence and is currently in prison, in federal prison in Texas. This case is significant, too, because more than 20 of these children were sexually molested after the National Catholic Conference of Bishops put their 2002 norms in place for the safety and protection of children. More than 20 of these children were sexually molested after those norms were put in place. Why weren't those norms adhered to? Why weren't they applied? Why didn't they protect children? It shows you the emptiness and the hollowness of the words of church leaders when they talk about putting norms in place and children are being sexually molested in a wholesale fashion. There is no excuse for these children being sexually molested repeatedly over the course of years. Douglas Perlitz ran Project Pierre Toussaint from approximately 1998 to approximately 2008. And myself, with the law firm Hanley Conroy in New York City, fought vigorously in court to obtain justice on behalf of these clients, on behalf of these victims. The children were molested when they were approximately age 9 to approximately age 21, and now they're approximately age 19 to approximately age 30. This is a life-changing settlement because now they are able to eat, sleep with a roof over their head, buy clothing, and seek and obtain medical attention. This case is about accountability. In the release, the defendants deny liability, but the fact that they paid $12 million to settle this case speaks volumes about their liability and about their negligence in supervising Douglas Perlitz. These were not one-time incidents. Douglas Perlitz was sexually molesting children at Project Pierre Toussaint and in Bel Air in a wholesale fashion. He would sexually molest them and then give them money or food or clothing. And he would tell them he would give them more money or food or clothing, which they desperately needed, only if he was allowed to sexually molest them further. These children didn't know where to turn to, but they were heroes in this matter. Paul Kendrick in Maine, Margaret Joseph in Haiti, Cyrus Siebert in Haiti with the children right now, for years encouraged the United States government to investigate this matter. For years encouraged the victims, these boys, all male, to come forward and speak up. And Douglas Perlitz was convicted, and a $12 million settlement has been reached because of these heroes. Again, Margaret Joseph, Cyrus Siebert, who was a news person in Haiti, and Paul Kendrick, a Maine, a very strong advocate of these children and of all sexual abuse victims. I'll let Michael Sweat say a few words. Mike, why don't we switch seats?
Sure. Good morning. I'm here as a survivor of sexual abuse at a Jesuit institution in Portland, Maine, Cheverus High School, to acknowledge the courage, tremendous courage of these 24 victims of abuse by Doug Perlitz. Their lives were threatened. They were thrown on the street. Their food, their housing, their clothing was taken away from them when all the good Catholics at Fairfield University, Order of Malta, Hope Carter, and others learned about the abuse that Doug Perlitz was perpetrating against them. I'm here today also to recognize the advocates, Cyrus Siebert, who I know personally, who became a father to these boys. He'd wake up in the morning, they'd be at his door, looking for food, looking for a place to sleep, looking for shelter, looking for clothing. He's a journalist who broke the story, whose life was threatened, whose family was threatened, hence having to leave Haiti to protect his family. The other advocate that I'm here to acknowledge is Paul Kendrick, who stood outside Fairfield University, who met with the Jesuit priest Jeffrey von Arx, who talked to Carrier, who encouraged them to do the right thing as soon as they found out that Perlitz was abusing children. They failed to do that. They couldn't have run further or faster away from these boys, who were young boys at the time, to get away from the scandal that was about to confront them. So we have 24 heroes in Haiti. We have heroes in Margaret and in Cyrus, and we have a hero in Paul Kendrick, all of whom have had threats against them, both in Haiti and here in the United States. So I'm here to acknowledge that from my experience, the Jesuits will have spent tens, hundreds, thousands of dollars to avoid conflict, to avoid a court case. It was only when they were threatened with the potential of the lawsuit making its way to court that I suspect they decided to settle. The case was going to court. The full truth was going to be known. Hence, the settlement resulted. So we applaud the victims. I know also firsthand that it'll be important that they be treated holistically, that they receive proper counseling, that they receive proper nutrition, proper health care, and that they have some ability to have some financial advice and help with this settlement. This settlement is for harms done to them. They're heroes. They got Doug Perlitz put into prison for 19 plus years, and they got the largest institution, which has overseen some of the worst sexual abuse in this world, to cave and to settle. We applaud these young men, and we encourage others who have been harmed to step forward. And we also applaud the efforts of the FBI and Homeland Security for bringing justice to this case. Thank you.
Bob, let me see.
My name is Robert Hoatson, Hoatson. I'm the co-founder and president of Road to Recovery, a 501c3 nonprofit charity based in New Jersey. And the one word that comes to mind as I think about the settlement and the joys around that issue is the word imprisonment. We've had 25 people imprisoned around this case. Doug Perlitz is in prison, and the 24 victims that he abused have been in prison. Fortunately, Doug Perlitz remains in prison, while the other 24 of his victims hopefully will now be able to leave the imprisonment that they have felt for so long because of the abuse that they've endured. I am very pleased that Road to Recovery was been able to help in some way in helping to feed and to clothe and to house these children. We've participated in demonstrations at Fairfield, and we attended the Haiti conference in Washington, D.C., and we have reached out in some way to help these victims. But of course, the focus is on the courage of these victims, who hopefully will now end the imprisonment that they've been in and feel the freedom and the joy and the comfort that they so rightly deserve. Thank you.
I would just make one more comment. This case is historic for many reasons, not least of which is the long arm of the law reaching Haiti, but also for Mitch Garabedian and his law firm taking on this case. This is not an easy case, I surmise. It's a very complicated case with lots of organizations having a hand in lack of oversight of the supervision of Doug Perlitz. Mitch listened to the advocates, listened to Cyrus, listened to Paul, talked to some of the boys who are now young men, and saw that this was a case worth pursuing. Not an easy case, a case which we applaud Mitchell and his law firm for taking on, and his other legal experts who assisted him. It's important to realize that not every lawyer would take this case. Many, many hours of upfront work, many, many hours of travel to Haiti to meet with the victims. So as an advocate, we applaud Mitch and his team for taking this case on.
Just in closing, I'd like to say that Hanley Conroy, a law firm out of New York City, represented the victims too, and did excellent work in this case. This case has taught me so much. There are the heroes, Paul Kendrick, Margaret Joseph, and Cyrus Siebert, for instance. Taught me about relentlessly fighting for individuals who cannot fight for themselves, against immorality, against the immorality perpetrated by Douglas Perlitz and the negligence of Fairfield University, the Society of Jesus, Hope Carter, Father Paul Carrier, the Haiti Fund, the Order of Malta. These children, in so many cases, I've said the money represents healing, it represents validation, and it's true in this case. These children now can heal. This chapter in their lives are closed, except there's an additional point in this case. These children can now eat. They can now clothe themselves. They can now buy medicine. They can sleep with roofs under their heads. It's unfathomable to sit down with children who are my clients and have them ask me for food. Mitch, can you give us some food? Do you have any food? I receive emails from Haiti from them, and I have been receiving them for approximately 3 years. Can you send us some food? They're not asking for anything else. And when I told them about the settlement, their reactions were heart-rendering. Not only could they heal emotionally, but they could actually eat, sleep, and clothe themselves. These are street children in one of the poorest countries in the world. What on earth was Douglas Perlitz and his negligent supervisors thinking? Sexually abusing individuals who had nothing except their faith and hope. And they taught me about faith and hope and courage. They'll forever be my heroes. It is simply unfathomable that for 10 years, Douglas Perlitz sexually molested children while supervisors turned their backs. And as is usually the case, they were making hundreds of thousands of dollars while Douglas Perlitz was sexually molesting these children. They were having fundraisers everywhere, in Connecticut, for instance, where people would contribute thousands of dollars. But meanwhile, he was sexually molesting children. It is all about accountability in the most basic human sense. Thank you. Does anybody want to say anything? Thank you. Any questions at all?
Mitch, how difficult was it bringing a lawsuit in Connecticut when you had, using Connecticut law, federal law, and you've got kids who were abused in a country that's 2,000 miles, 3,000 miles?
It was very difficult because of the cultural differences, for instance. Not only jurisdiction, but we prevailed. We found a way in jurisdictional grounds because Douglas Perlitz, for instance, came to Connecticut and fundraised on behalf of Project Pierre Toussaint. But you have a different culture in Haiti. You're dealing with people, with individuals who have a deep religious faith. and yet this evil happened to them, and they had to deal with that. And just in terms of how they view life, in terms of surviving, everything isn't viewed in terms of survival in Haiti. It isn't viewed as, whoa, okay, now I receive this money, I can go and buy a new car. It's not like that. It's, well, okay, I received this money, now I can eat. Now I can buy my mother some food. Now I can buy my cousin some food. Now I can buy my brother a shirt. There was one child who let himself be sexually molested by Douglas Perlitz because he didn't want his younger brother to be further sexually molested. They are basic, faithful, hopeful human beings who are very decent in their lives, yet they have nothing. And they taught me all about courage and faith and hope and decency. They were so thankful to receive this money so that they could live, and I mean live in the literal sense, so that they could obtain medicine. For many individuals in Haiti, as I mentioned earlier, have typhoid, have malaria, HIV, have tuberculosis. When I met with one of these individuals, I gave him some money last time, and I said, why don't you go straight to the doctor? It's not as you can ever imagine. You can't imagine this, is what I should be saying. You can't, if you're sick, you just can't go to the doctor because the doctor wants an enormous amount of money, if there's one available, if they have the medicine. And the diseases are life-threatening. Infection is the #1 killer in the world, I'm told, and Haiti has so much infection through these various diseases, it's incredible. Just to sit down with these boys, my clients, who are now approximately 19 to approximately 30 years old, it's heart-rending. And I've been to Haiti, and they were so glad to see me. Just to see anyone who believed in what happened to them. I wish Paul Kendrick, Margaret Joseph, and Cyrus Siebert were here today to explain their experiences. They were the ones, before I ever came to the forefront, who encouraged Homeland Security, the United States government, to prosecute Douglas Perlitz, who contacted me and said, will you please help these victims, these poor souls? But culturally, you have to think in their terms. Now they can buy food, clothing, and shelter. I'm sorry to repeat myself. Now they can buy medicine. Now that they can take care of their families. Very basic. It's not, oh, I'm going to go out and buy a nice new car. It's just very, very basic. Any other questions?
What does this settlement mean to other victims in third world countries who have been assaulted by Americans working for NGOs? And what do NGOs have to do now?
I think, first of all, this settlement sends a loud and clear message to sexual predators and their enablers, whether it be institutions or other individuals around the world, that sexual abuse will not be tolerated, that you will be prosecuted to the full extent of the law, both criminally and civilly, and it has to stop. Sexual abuse, as is shown by the Haitian sexual abuse cases, is worldwide and is rampant. You have the most purportedly the most prestigious moral institutions in the world. Fairfield University, the Society of Jesus, the Order of Malta. Pope Carter as an agent, Paul Carrier as an agent, representing these supposedly prestigious moral institutions, while children are being sexually molested at a wholesale rate. Their negligence is just irresponsible. What can we do to prevent this in the future? Put screening processes in place so that NGOs or any other organization do not allow pedophiles to be within their ranks and put screening processes in place so that supervisors are trained to watch individuals who are working for them and not turn their backs on innocent children. We cannot expect these institutions, such as Fairfield University, such as the Society of Jesus, such as the Haiti Fund, such as the Order of Malta, to self-police. They don't self-police. It's a kangaroo court. They're too busy making money. They don't care about children. As I've said earlier, they're purportedly the most moral institutions in the world, yet they act the most immoral. Outside agencies, truly outside agencies, not paid by these entities, have to be watchdog agencies. There has to be screening processes in place, not only for individuals who will work immediately with children or have immediate contact with children, but for their supervisors, because it just doesn't work. Douglas Perlitz was molesting children for approximately 10 years at a wholesale rate in Haiti. And where were the supervisors? The supervisors were out fundraising, making money, turning their backs on innocent children who, for instance, would sleep at night, night after night, for years with Douglas Perlitz in his Bel Air home. Doesn't that raise a red flag? Of course it does. Would either of you like to address this?
I would just add, that's fine, Mitch.
No, go ahead.
I would just add that last year, Bob Hotzen and I and Paul Kendrick and Cyrus actually attended a meeting in Washington, D.C. for Catholic Relief Services and actually tried to present this issue and the fact that these organizations, these NGOs, need to have proper policies and procedures in place. They didn't want to hear it. They all but threw us out of the room when we raised the question, do all of your organizations have policies and procedures in place to protect children? They were not interested. Yet they will lobby Congress for more funds for Catholic Relief Services, our tax dollars being distributed under the guise of the moral institution Catholic Church, not interested in writing policies to protect children, not interested in hearing about the United States Conference of Catholic Bishops' policies and procedures and norms on protecting children. There was absolutely no interest in a dialogue, a discussion at Catholic Relief Services, which takes our tax funds and runs NGOs in Haiti and other places. Sex abuse of children is rampant, and the Catholic Church is one of the biggest perpetrators of these crimes. They'll call them sins, they're crimes. And in this case, not only was Doug Perlitz held accountable, but the institutions which supervised and managed, and the individuals who supervised and managed Doug Perlitz were also called to task for their lack of supervision. And with all the hoopla about the new Pope being a Jesuit, I'm curious what he thinks of the actions of Father Jeffrey Von Arx, Father Paul Carrier, Father Regan, the former provincial of the Jesuits here in New England, and Miles Sheehan, the current Jesuit provincial. Disgraceful, deplorable actions and oversight and treatment of victims of clergy sex abuse or abuse within the institutional church in the case of Doug Perlitz.
Just a quick, Mike, to address your question. What I'm dealing with as Road to Recovery is the whole notion and perception of sexuality throughout the world. President Obama has been in Africa the last few days, and he appealed to the Senegalese president to do something about the question of homosexuality being illegal. And so in third world countries where we're finding that the whole idea of sexuality is very, very primitive, their attitudes toward it, where homosexuality is illegal, kids who are abused by priests in those countries, boys especially, are going to be especially silent because they've engaged in, quote, an illegal act. So I think that has to be said, too, that across the world, and the notion of people being abused by especially Catholic priests, and they're usually boys, that whole attitude and issue has to be dealt with very carefully, I think.
Yeah, I recently settled a case with an individual who was sexually molested by a Catholic priest in Ghana. And he was terrified in coming forward because in Ghana, homosexuality is punishable by a life sentence, even if you're the child, and even if you didn't consent in the sexual activity. So many individuals will look at the cases in Haiti and say, well, if those boys can do it, and many individuals from third world countries and around the world will look at those the cases in Haiti and say, well, if those boys can do it, then we can do it. And hopefully they'll have Paul Kendricks and Cyrus Sieberts and Margaret Josephs to encourage them and to help them. This case sends a message around the world that sexual abuse will not be tolerated. These boys have empowered themselves, other sexual abuse victims, and made the world a safer place for children by their years of activity in the courts and by coming forward in the first place. They're to be honored. Anything else?
$500,000 settlement, each boy is getting that. Are there any provisions made to give them any type of financial counseling, medical treatment, or psychological treatment?
There are no provisions, but they will be given financial counseling. They are being given financial counseling. And they want the financial counseling. Again, it's a cultural difference. They're not thinking in terms of, well, I can go out and buy this new car, or I can go out and buy this new computer. They're thinking, well, I can now buy food. Now I can buy my mother food. Now I can buy my father food. Now I can buy clothes. Oh, and by the way, I can rent an apartment. I don't have to sleep on a roof anymore or out in the woods. I can go to the doctor. It's a totally different mindset. And Mike, you mentioned difficulties in handling these cases. Well, 2,000 miles is is quite a distance. And I've had to travel to Haiti, and I've had enormous amount of conversations with them through interpreters. And the interpreters have explained the cultural differences. When they say one thing, they may mean another. For instance, in Haiti, very basic. Their first name is last, and their last name is first. On January 1st of every year, everyone gets older by 1 year. Even if your birthday isn't on January 1st, if it's May 1st, you're still a year older. There's certain cultural barriers you have to get through. But in understanding them, there are cultural barriers too. For instance, Haitians will give you, if you ask them, how are you, they'll tell you how they were yesterday, today, and how they're going to be tomorrow, because when they're stopped by police, they always have to give an explanation of where they've been, where they are, and where they're going. It's a different culture. Any other questions?
Anything in this case involving the sexual abuse by other individuals in this case, the cover-up, is that going to become public at any point?
No, the court issued a protective order keeping all documents confidential. Now, there was such a protective order in the Boston cases too, but the media, the Boston Globe, went to court, and under the First Amendment, they had the documents released so that they were able to view them. I'm not suggesting the media do this, but the option is there. The media can go to court and ask the judge for an order so that the documents be made public. And why do I say that? Because under the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, the media has that power. The judge may not allow it, but there's much more standing for the media to do it and do it successfully. Anything else? Thank you.